We acknowledge the First Peoples and their traditional lands referred to as Treaty 6, 7, and 8 territories, and that the province of Alberta and all the people here are beneficiaries of these peace and friendship treaties. Treaties 6, 7, and 8, along with small areas of Treaties 4 and 10, encompass the traditional territories of numerous Western Canadian First Nations as well as the Métis people. Norquest College is dedicated to ensuring that the spirit of these treaties is honored and respected. Heeding the calls to action of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, with funding from Alberta Advanced Education, the Rural Roots program is herein responding to the calls for education for reconciliation. Article 62, 2. To post-secondary institutions to educate teachers on how to integrate Indigenous knowledge and teaching into classrooms. Article 63, 2. Sharing information and best practices on teaching curriculum related to residential schools and Aboriginal history. Article 63, 3. Building student capacity for intercultural understanding, empathy, and mutual respect. Article 63, 4. Identifying teacher training needs relating to the above. We are grateful to the elders who, with open hearts, willingly shared the knowledge they keep for their peoples. On behalf of English language learners throughout the province of Alberta, we thank them for introducing newcomers among us to truth about identity, treaty, protocol and ceremony, residential schools, challenges to overcome, and guiding lights.
Because right now everybody feels we're at a turning point. It's starting to shift in our direction. Because on my reserve there's maybe over 200 people with degrees, And our schools are 90% of them are Aboriginal, Siksika teachers. And we're starting to teach our children from daycare who we are, what we're all about. Well, on my reserve, we have 2 elementary schools. We have a high school. We have a college. And then we have a school called Fresh Start. Yeah, that's for students that have dropped out, and but they want to get back into education. A lot of the students, they get bused in because our reserve, Siksika Reserve, is the second largest reserve in Canada, and it's about, I think it's 15 miles long. 25 miles wide. But the barriers on a reserve, it all boils down to resources, money. 90% of our roads are still dirt and gravel. Sometimes the children are on a bus, at least 3 hours a day. An hour and a half to go get picked up on a bus and an hour and a half to go home. It is very horrible in the wintertime. Snow drifts. In the summer when the rain Some buses get stuck, and there's kids in there. And the educational board is forever begging the government for more money to improve the education system. We have to follow the Alberta curriculum. But we've modified it to meet our standards. Kids come to daycare and they wake up in the morning hearing Siksika language. They go to the classroom or daycare. They hear Siksika from the workers. And there they go to elementary school. They see signs. They hear the language, their language being spoken. You have little kids there speaking Siksika. It makes my heart proud, eh? Because we're looking after them for the 7th generation. At the college level, they're all Siksika staff. All of them have degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and a few PhDs. But the main barrier is the money. So if a Siksika student on a reserve or any rural student, if you go into the urban area to go to school, your educational level drops, maybe 1 grade, sometimes 2. Because any rural person don't have access to libraries like the people in the city for more resources. The other big barrier is the teaching styles. There's a way we teach Siksika students. There's a learning style. There's a way to learn, and sometimes that's a conflict. And there's also listening styles. You could be talking to a Siksika person, and the Siksika person rarely gives you eye contact. And while you're talking, you could hear the Siksika person, Sometimes he's not necessarily hearing you. He's just acknowledging that something's happening to your mouth. It's you're talking to me, and I'm trying to be respectful, And some people walk away and says, well, I told him. They thought they told him, but he didn't hear a word what you said. So that has to be understood.
The healthcare is so behind. See, they're not being diagnosed right away. When I was living back home and in Yellowknife, I was working, but I hurt myself. I didn't know I had a slip disc and a pinched nerve, and I had to quit working. I know I had to move closer to see doctors, because it takes so long to see doctors in the NWT. So I said, I just got to move here to get better help for myself. It's not fair because, there's a lot of people in these small settlements. By the time they get checkup and that, and it's way too late for them to live longer. It's very bad sometimes. No planes can't land, and no boats can go or anything, no vehicles. we used to use the ice road and planes flying into the communities. They recently just built a road to Tuk from Inuvik, but other than that, they make ice road to Aklavik. And with all the other settlements, they have to be flown in. An ice road is when the river or ocean is frozen and the plows make a road on the ice for vehicles to drive on and pass each other. And the Dempster Highway. That's a road from Inuvik to Whitehorse, Yukon. That's the only road. It's a real road on the land. It's not paved to Whitehorse because it's straight gravel because of the temperature.
So we know what it's like to be from the outside looking in. The different people that are coming and immigrating into Canada, they're welcome within our community. And we're looking forward to them understanding the uniqueness about the Métis people. As Métis Nation of Alberta and Métis people have always welcomed different ethnicities within our community. We're different. So we have an understanding of how it is to be different for a long time. We're all here together, and this is a unique experiment that we all live together in the same neighborhood, that we actually accept each other's differences, languages, cultures, and we move forward. We can all be different, and we can all live together. The government, it changes every 4 years. The Indigenous people have to enshrine that the leaps forward that we take are not pushed back by the next government that comes in. This is a very difficult challenge. It's very slower paced. The communities are more family orientated, gatherings, culturally based. The Métis people love their music, fiddle playing and so on. Yeah, we actually have hunting rights on our settlement lands, but we also have to get, let's say, tags in order to hunt, so that we can have accountability of how much resources are being harvested in the settlements. Most settlements do not have a swimming pool. We do not have West Edmonton Mall. And we have to come up with our own festivities and our own. We do not have the stores, even having a fire department or a clinic. We're just having our towns put together, and it's rural, which means it is outside of any townships. So it's like a farming communities. It's challenging. You have to have a vehicle. You need to be able to travel.
Education, healthcare system and the justice system are racist based. We have far ways to go, from residential schools to now the reserve schools are not properly funded. They're totally underfunded. I'll tell you a story. For 19 years as an Aboriginal liaison person, and I have fought hard to have our children come to school on time, to find out why they're not coming to school. If they don't have any lunch to bring to school as prescribed, a sandwich, a juice box, and a fruit, they won't come to school. But at home, mom or kokum can make a big pot of stew for everybody. The kids are coming to school running in 5 or 10 minutes late, and the secretary says, "You're late." And I said, "They're here. Hi, how are you? What's the welcome?" Kids can't come to school because they don't have bus fare. I said, it's law that a child cannot miss school because they don't have bus fare. They don't have transportation. The school has to pay that. And you cannot miss because you live too far away. The kids will stay home if they can't afford a trip, like a field trip, or pay for a hot dog. How many times I've had to go and say, they have money. Edmonton Public gets extra money for all self-identified students. And that's only recent that we found out. All the books were pulled out of these schools because they had Indian on them. But in their registration form, it says status Indian or non-status Indian. The reserve schools don't get that money. And all their children are self-identified. It's very difficult to have comparable health when treaty people are being looked after by the federal government, but the provincial government is the one who does healthcare. Alberta Health Services, and yet we're INAC. Northern communities can't access the health system. So somebody sits in an office and decides what kind of medicines they're going to cover. That's what the TRC said. The best medicine, the best education, the best of everything for our people. In order for that to happen, they're going to have to do nation to nation. Why can't we do that? Why are we not at the table at the University of Alberta? Are we at the table at Norquest College yet? Are we at the table to decide what's going to happen? This is what this says. The same with the law. Justice has to totally change. It's what we call the pass system, where you had to get a permit from the Indian agent so that you could leave the reserve. And that's why when you went off to work, some people lost their treaty rights because they did not have long enough pass system, the pass to leave. Some of our war veterans came back after joining the army to go to war, and they lost their treaty rights because they did not have the Indian agent's permission to join. My brothers married non-Indigenous women. Their wives became treaty, and their children were treaty. I married off reserve, and I lost my treaty rights. I have a letter that says you are no longer an Indian according to the Indian Act. My children were not treaty until 1985. And my brother's line, they'll always be treaty because the men carry that. My great-grandchildren will not be. if it doesn't change. That law is again getting rid of the Indian problem.
You know, 100 and some years later, we're still negotiating with the government for Treaty 8. In Treaty 8, one of the signings was for a cow and a plow because Indigenous people wanted to get into agriculture. So the government said, we'll help you. Within a few years, the government stopped giving cow and plow. But today, they don't give you the cow and the plow. They give you the value in dollars. It's a struggle with the government. Because in my view, and this is my own personal opinion, the government signed the treaties with the intent of not allowing Indigenous people to really advance in society. They wanted to keep us down. So all these things that they signed, promises were broken. When we come to a gathering, the speakers get up on the microphone and they always want to honor Treaty 6. They want to honor the land. But how about if we honor the people that once walked this land?